Welcome back to Twisted and Mysterious. This is part 2 of the podcast. Enjoy.
There was blood on the computer desk and mouse and on a door frame. It wasn't like copious amounts of blood. It was like smears of blood, like small smears
generally
of blood.
You don't find blood on your computer desk.
Phoebe's hair straightener was plugged in and turned on and sitting on the bathroom floor. The hair straightener being out makes sense because she would have been getting ready to have dinner with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt also claims that there was a shrine on their bed. That's his word. He said that there was a picture of him, a picture of her cat. There's literally no other mention of a cat in this whole story.
Okay.
And some random scribbled notes that there were candles burning. The shrine was in the middle of the bed, he claims. Aunt is the only one ever to have seen this shrine.
Yeah.
When police came into the apartment later and took pictures, the shrine was not there. The pictures he described were, like, on, like, the nightstand and stuff. So, so either it was never there, or Aunt dismantled it before the police came up.
Yeah.
All right, so I want you to pretend to be Aunt.
Okay.
Tell me what you do next.
After what?
After you walk into your apartment, your girlfriend is gone, you find glass and blood and her hair straightener, and what do you do next?
Well, after I have made sure she's nowhere to be found in the apartment, I call the police.
Well, you are wrong. So, Aunt cracks open a cold one. He smokes a cigarette. He gets on the computer. He calls a colleague, and then he calls his friend Vanessa Levin. Computer analysis shows that he looked through Phoebe's computer between 6:19 and 6:34. Then at 6:51, Lynn, her dad, calls Phoebe's iPhone to tell her that he's running late for dinner. And this is where Aunt's story and Lynn's story differ a lot.
Okay.
So first of all, Aunt had claimed initially that he had taken Phoebe's iPhone to be repaired on Wednesday morning when he left for work.
Okay.
Because remember, she had thrown it and broke
it.
it. But then people pointed out, if that was true, how did she send us that weird tomato soup text?
Well, didn't she have another phone?
But it came from her iPhone number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so then he was like, oh, I guess I took it on Thursday morning, not Wednesday morning. And just to give him the benefit of the doubt, remember, he's been fully exonerated of any wrongdoing, and we're not suggesting otherwise. Maybe in his distress, he just forgot what day he grabbed it.
Yeah. I forget what days I do things.
I also, because they had mentioned that he had opened GarageBand on her computer, and I was like, well, she had a Mac, so maybe she sent it via, like, iMessage on her computer, but iMessage wasn't around at this time, so that wasn't a thing.
But I always think that I would be terrible if police ever asked me anything, because I remember nothing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm no good at remembering things, so I know I would never be able to describe somebody, and especially if you asked me how old they were or how tall they were.
Or if you asked me what I was doing, like, on December 13th last year, they ask things like that, and I'm just like, I don't remember what I was doing 2 days ago. Right. How am I supposed to remember what I was doing on December 13th?
Right, it's like, I don't remember what I was doing 10 minutes ago. So
half the time I forget what words just came out of my mouth.
Right.
So how do you think that I could possibly remember what happened, you know, weeks or months ago?
Yeah.
Like,
the only thing I can say about this is that, like, he's, like, Mr. Controlling. So I would assume he would remember these things. The iPhone or the phone repair shop does not have a record of when it was dropped off. However, Lynn claims that immediately after, like, he got voicemail, Aunt calls him. And Lynn was like, this dude has literally never called me in 18 months of him dating my daughter. Right. And then he just happens to call me for the first time immediately after I called Phoebe's iPhone. And so Aunt claims that it was just a coincidence. That he was just calling him to let him know that Phoebe wasn't there and he didn't know where she was. Which I thought was weird because she's up and left a lot of times and he's never called her family and been like, I don't know where she's at. But whatever. So Lynn encourages Aunt to call the police and report her missing. And he's understandably concerned, especially after her weird text the day before. Ant says that he doesn't think that's a good idea because they won't do anything for 48 hours anyway. He also fails to mention the state of the apartment.
Right.
He doesn't tell Lynn about the blood or the broken glass or the weird shrine or anything. About an hour after he's been home, he calls and orders food for one from the Golden Triangle. So remember, this is the place they were supposed to go eat dinner with her.
He's doing all of the typical things that you would do if your girlfriend was missing and your house was in disarray.
Right? So, this is weird. At least I think so. I mean, you seem to think it's perfectly normal, but I think it's kind of weird.
Pretty logical.
So, I think the question everyone has about this particular detail is, like, did he assume they weren't going because Phoebe wasn't there, but he was like, man, I was ready for some Thai food?
I had a hankering.
Like, I was just ready for that Thai food, and so I'm just going to go ahead and get some.
I had a hankering for this specific dish, and I'm going to have that dish.
Yeah, I guess. So, when his food's delivered, the delivery guy is like, dude, what's going on downstairs? And Ant is like, I don't know what's going on. What's going on downstairs? And the guy tells him there's like a zillion cops down there. So Ant heads downstairs and stops a police officer and tells him he lives in the building and he wants to know what's going on. And the police tell him that they found a body in the compactor room. And immediately Ant is like, my girlfriend is missing. Could it be my girlfriend? And the cop is like, shrugs. I don't know if it's your girlfriend. And so Ant gives them some details about her appearance and tattoos, and they said that sounds like the person they found. And so then he starts offering all of this information about how he came in and she was missing, but her purse was there, and there was like the shrine on the bed, and she's depressed and she drinks a lot, and like, you know, she might have killed herself, and like, and I want to say that I read that he went up to get a picture of her for the police to confirm that it was her, but I can't remember now if it was like then or like when the police go upstairs with him to look at the apartment. But either way, that seems like a lot of information to offer unasked. So now Ant calls Lynn and lets him know that they found Phoebe and she's dead. And Lynn calls and lets her mom know. So now let's talk about the scene.
Yeah.
So when police arrived, they cordoned off the compactor room. And when EMTs arrived a few minutes later, the police wouldn't allow them into the room to check for signs of life, telling the EMTs that they would be contaminating a crime scene.
I mean, that's what the EMTs do. I mean, I don't mean that in a rude way, but I mean, they don't worry about whether or not they're going to contaminate a crime scene.
Right.
They go and they see if they can save the person first.
Exactly.
And whether that messes up the crime scene or not, that's what the EMTs are there for.
Right. And, like, I can't remember the name of the EMT, but she said that she lost a lot of sleep over this.
Just like with firefighters, they destroy so much evidence when they're having to
fight a fire in a yogurt shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, at that moment, it's not about the evidence.
Right. It's about preservation of life.
Yeah.
And so the worst possible thing about this entire ordeal is that no one knows if she was still alive when the police arrived. Because no one knows when she went into that chute. And no time of death was ever established because no one bothered to check her at the scene. As far as anyone knows, not a single person, the police or the EMTs, checked to see if she was still alive. A medical examiner wasn't called to the scene, so a core body temperature wasn't checked, nor did the medical examiner even see her in situ. So, like, they didn't even know what she looked like when she died.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, it does appear that after she came down the chute and through the compactor, she was alive because the blood evidence shows that she crawled around the room. There was even blood on the back of the door.
Yeah.
Like, but it was dark. And so, and like the most gruesome detail of this entire thing is that her foot was nearly severed at the ankle by the compactor and was attached only by a tendon.
Yikes.
Yeah. And strangely, her pants were down below her knees, and her belt was only through the first 2 loops. There wasn't any sign of sexual assault, so that doesn't seem to be why, but no one knows why her pants were down.
Right.
Some people speculate that maybe her belt wasn't completely put into her jeans, like she had been interrupted while she was getting dressed. Also, if she went down the chute feet first, which she did, her pants should have ridden up, not fallen down.
Right.
And so some people speculate that maybe she was trying to remove them to tie off her injured leg. But didn't get that far. Another theory is that someone put her into the chute and then used her jeans to, like, keep her legs together to make it easier to, like, feed her into the chute. All right, so immediately the police ruled this a suicide.
Okay.
With only the word of Aunt about her being depressed and drinking.
It seems like a weird suicide if she was still alive once she got down through the trash compactor chute thingy, and then just happened to die behind the door of blood loss. Yeah, that seems like a odd choice.
Yeah, and it had never happened before in the history of Australia.
Yeah.
They did find, in the same year, weirdly, 2 people that were found at the bottom of garbage chutes in Baltimore, Maryland, in the same apartment building, but they had both gone down, like, head first, and I didn't look into it further, so I don't know if this was, like, somebody killed both of those people, because it seems weird that 2 people in one apartment building in the same, like, year did this, but I don't know. But other than that, there hasn't really been any other death by garbage chute. Yeah, but it would be weird to do this. Like, that doesn't seem like... And her friends were even like, if she was going to commit suicide, she would have done something, like, way more dramatic or poetic. Like, she would have, like, swan dived off of a bridge, or, you know, her mom was like, I could see her, like, maybe taking a lot of pills and overdosing, or, you know...
But also, because I think that I have possibly heard this story before, because there are parts of it that just sound really familiar. But the thing that I've always thought is, also, if you're going to put yourself down the trash compactor, or the garbage chute, or whatever you want to call it, wouldn't you go down head first? Doesn't it seem just easier to just
I don't know.
slide in head first than to try to, like, put your legs in there and...
Yeah. And we're going to talk about the chute in just a second. So, like I said, the police immediately ruled this a suicide. What I don't understand is, if they assumed it was a suicide, why did they tell the EMTs they were going to mess up a crime scene? And even after the police went to the apartment and photographed the blood and the broken glass and the general state of the apartment, they still believed it to be a suicide. In the haze of alcohol and sleeping pills, she put herself into the chute and she plummeted to her death. So, Phoebe's grandfather, Lauren Campbell, is a retired detective, and he took major issue with this. Toxicology reports showed that Phoebe's blood alcohol level was 0.16, which is 3 times the legal limit. And she also had a therapeutic dose of Stilnox in her system and antidepressants. But it wasn't like an overdose of antidepressants and Stilnox. It was like she had taken like 1 or 2 and like her antidepressants for the day. Lauren maintains that Phoebe, despite her steady alcohol use, couldn't handle her liquor, and that she was like basically a baby deer learning how to walk after like 2 or 3 drinks. And she got extremely clumsy. And so how did this clumsy drunk girl on sleeping pills manage to climb into this garbage chute by herself?
Right.
Additionally, there were no fingerprints found on the door to the chute. And so, about the chute. So, there's a refuse room on every floor. So, of course, it's upscale luxury. So, it's not like on Friends where it's like just across from their apartment.
Right.
Like, you have to go in a special room so nobody sees the trash. So, inside the room is the garbage chute. And it's like one of those doors that you have to pull down like a mailbox. And it's spring-loaded, and so it slammed shut after you let it go. And the housekeeper even called it a bear trap, because she said that it was so heavy to open, and then as soon as you let it go, it like slammed really hard. And it sits about 3 feet off of the floor. It's about 14.5 inches wide and only opens about 8 inches. So it's like a little space.
Yeah.
And there's nothing around it to hold on to. Like, it's literally just in the middle of this wall. And when you drop your trash into it, it goes down at like a slight angle and then it falls, like it goes into a vertical drop. And then before it gets to the compactor, it hits another thing that's like a 45-degree angle that feeds it into the compactor. And the compactor crushes the trash twice, and then it drops it into like a wheelie bin. And then the wheelie bins are like on a carousel. And so when that one gets full, it moves on to the next one. So because police already had it set in their minds that it was a suicide, they did the bare minimum in evidence collecting. In fact, I think they did less than the bare minimum.
Yeah.
The building manager, Eric Giamario, told the police that they needed to get the CCTV footage right away because it was on a 2-day loop, so it would record over itself after 2 days. They basically brushed him off, like even after he offered to download it for them. They came back 2 days later and asked for it.
Yeah.
Conveniently, I don't know. But yeah, so of course it was gone after that. So there's no CCTV footage showing her going into the chute or anybody else in that area. They didn't take the computers or the phones found in the apartment. In fact, Phoebe's Nokia phone has never been recovered. In the taped conversation between Natalie and Aunt, he claims that she lost it when she was out partying, but that's never been proven one way or another because they don't have the phone. They only tested the blood that was on the door frame to the apartment, none of the other blood. They didn't test either of the 2 glasses on the table for fingerprints or DNA. And, I mean, it's like the shoddiest police work you can imagine.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds definitely like they tried their hardest.
Right? I feel like they gave it none of their all.
Yeah, not even some of their all.
So Phoebe's body lay in the compactor room for like 9 hours or some nonsense before the crime scene investigators ever even got there. And so during her autopsy, it was noted that she had a subdural hematoma on her brain, but it was written with a question mark and listed as a possible artifact of brain removal. She had ovoid bruises on her arms that looked like grip marks, but they were not noted until the coroner's inquest years later. They were just assumed to be bruises from the fall down the chute.
Yeah.
In ovals, like fingerprints on her arm.
Yeah.
They didn't take Aunt to the police station for questioning. They allowed him to give his statement in the apartment, and even like while the police officer was like taking his statement, Aunt was like, just let me type it for you because you're going too slow. And so they even let him type his own statement.
Goodness.
And because they considered it a suicide, they didn't even explore any other possibilities. So
sounds like top-notch police work.
Yes. So Phoebe's grandfather, Lorne, was not at all convinced of this, and he was just like, what in the world is going on? Like, this is not how you conduct an investigation. And when you have a bizarre death, like, you don't immediately rule it one way or another, like, until you investigate it. And so he set out to do his own investigating, and he decided to figure out if it was even possible for someone to get into the chute on their own. So he enlisted 2 friends of Phoebe's who were similar in height and build, and his experiments were all recorded, and you can watch them on YouTube. He started the experiments in the actual refuge room of the Balencia, and he attached harnesses to the girls so they wouldn't actually fall down the chute. He had them dressed similar. They were barefoot like Phoebe was, and after a lot of work, the girls were both able to get into the chute, but they had to like brace themselves against the walls, and it was very physically you know,
it doesn't sound
difficult.
like something easy or quick to do, and especially if you're trying to kill yourself. Like, I think that there are other ways that
She had a balcony.
yeah.
I'm
I'm not encouraging anyone to take their own lives, but, you know, I don't think you would go about it in the most complicated way.
Right. And then, like, with, like, this heavy door, and you're, like, trying to, like, lift your leg up and over it into the chute, and it just is so much. So once their legs were in the chute, they would have to kind of, like, wiggle down. The whole time, the door's trying to close, and so it's, like, squishing them up against the top of the chute. And I got claustrophobic just watching them do this. And eventually they were able to squeeze through as long as their arms were like trailing up over their heads. And this did not align with the findings of the coroner, who stated that she had her arms by her side and used her arms at her butt to slow her descent. And if this had been the case, she would have been covered in filth because the trash chute was disgusting.
But also, why would she slow her descent?
Right. Well, because spoiler alert, the coroner says that it was a tragic accident, that she wasn't trying to hurt herself, and that it was just like death by misadventure. Yeah. And so she crawled in there and then tried to slow herself down, and so anyway, her arms would have been disgusting if this had been the case. Also, she wouldn't have fit into the opening of the chute with her hands by her sides. Like, it would have been too wide right here. And also, based on how the door was squeezing the girls as they were attempting this feat, she probably would have had, like, a bruise on her back.
Yeah.
Plus, her friends all said she was claustrophobic.
Right.
Like, that... I was claustrophobic watching them try to wiggle into this thing. I can't imagine actually doing it. So, he did multiple tests. The manufacturer of the trash compactor even built him a replica of the chute so that he could conduct his experiments. They had one on the set of 60 Minutes Australia and had one of the girls show how hard it was to get into it. I mean, and she's got her hands, like, all over the walls and, like, had to do a lot of balancing and, you know, like, trying to get in there. And they didn't believe that Phoebe, who, you know, had her blood alcohol was 3 times the legal limit, plus she was on sleeping pills, would have had like the dexterity or the balance to do this. Lauren also experimented to see how easy it would be to put someone else into the chute, and so he had a man kind of fireman carry one of the girls, and like she was just like limp, like playing, you know, like unconscious or whatever. And because the guy could like control the door with one hand and then feed her into the chute feet first, it was pretty easy to get her in. But again, her arms had to be up over her head. So in the days that followed, Phoebe's family and Aunt's family met, and they said it was so weird that George Hampel, the ex-Supreme Court judge, kept telling Lynn, Phoebe was a troubled girl. Like, there was nothing you could have done. Like, this was just a tragic suicide. Like, just over and over to her dad. And he was just like, I'm sorry, I'm a psychiatrist. Who are you to diagnose my child? But it was almost like they were just trying to, like, push this narrative on them. I actually would just remember that I forgot to write it down. So, the concierge that found her had to take like weeks off of work because she was so distraught over this. When she got back, one of Aunt's friends kept showing up like every other day or something with flowers and chocolates and stuff, and telling her, oh, she was troubled and it wasn't your fault. And but like, weird.
That's not ominous.
And it's not normal. Like, it's not normal behavior. No. Aunt Hampel has been cleared of any wrongdoing, and we are not suggesting otherwise. So, Vanessa Levin, his friend of like 20 years, testified at the inquest that Aunt was being weird. That he seemed to be able to turn his emotions on and off. Like, one minute he'd be hanging on the couch scrolling Facebook, and then if anyone came over, especially one of the Handsjuk family, he would like curl up in a ball on the couch and start crying. And he even wrote on his Facebook, even before the police had like officially declared it a suicide or whatever, like, as some of you may know, like, Phoebe took her own life because she was so sad, or like some stupid nonsense like that. And they were just like you hadn't just said like she tragically died. Like, you had to like, again, like, they're pushing this narrative,
like, hammering the suicide point.
And so I forgot to put this up in the place where I was talking about when he was giving a statement, But the officer who was taking his statement the night of Phoebe's death also said that Ant kept like sniffling and acting like he was crying, but the cop didn't see any tears or like mucus or any sign that he was actually crying.
Yeah.
And so, additionally, they found out that Ant had registered himself as Phoebe's next of kin. And so all calls from the medical examiner's office and reports and calls from the police and everything were coming to him instead of to Phoebe's family. And he had even applied for her death benefit and received like $100,000.
That's all normal.
Right? But eventually, after like a lot of fighting, he did give the money to her brothers. He shouldn't have claimed it in the first place. No. And then his father had signed some form stating that he and Phoebe had lived together like 6 months longer than they had even known each other, just to give him permission to like file for all of these things.
Yeah.
And so at one point, Natalie had met with Ant's stepmother and like her caterer or something, and they were talking about funeral arrangements, and Natalie said that Ant's stepmother was basically telling her how it was going to be. And she was just like, I have to leave.
Gotta go now.
And so after all of the disagreements between the two families, they ended up having separate memorial services. Ant's was held at a yacht club, and everyone who went to that one said that it was less about Phoebe and more about appearances.
I can't imagine that at all.
Right? And in addition to the memorial service that the Handsjuk family held, they also took her ashes to Malakuta because that was her favorite place. And her father's father was like Norwegian and had taught him how to bend wood, and so he created like this little like wooden boat, and they put her ashes and letters from her family and friends on it, and they draped it in marigolds, and they set it on fire, and like gave her a Viking funeral.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty traditional Viking-y.
Yeah. Ant did not attend.
Well,
you know, but
he was distraught.
He claimed that they were in like a common law marriage, but yeah.
He was too distraught to attend.
Right. So, of course, Phoebe's family wanted answers, and they were actually distraught at losing their daughter and their granddaughter and their sister, and they didn't believe that Phoebe killed herself because she was looking forward to decorating and celebrating for her brother Nikolai's 18th birthday, which was like the next day.
Yeah.
She was going to go eat dinner with her dad that night for his birthday. She had other celebrations coming up that she was looking forward to, so it just didn't seem likely. And they were like, you know, plus she, like, they, especially her friends were like, I don't think that she would have, like, done that in such a gruesome way to her family. Like, that just didn't seem right. So they requested a coroner's inquest, and that was finally granted. So it's kind of like a trial, almost. And so they all have lawyers, and the coroner listens to testimony and whatever. I have never loved the idea of a coroner,
right?
Because it's an elected official. They don't even have to have medical training. And so, I don't know, even in the United States, I don't like the idea of a coroner. I think there's some positions that, like, shouldn't be elected positions.
Yeah, that should be based on
and also
experience and skill.
Right. And a coroner should have medical training, I think, if they're going to be making decisions about causes of death and things. Like, I just think that should be the way it is. So Ant apparently was like adamantly opposed to this inquest, but her family pushed for it, and it was finally granted, but it was like years after her death. So anyway, so they finally started investigating. Computers were finally seized and analyzed. However, like, they discovered that all of Phoebe's sent emails had been deleted.
Can't they recover that kind of stuff?
Well, so here's the thing, is they requested from Gmail to release her emails, but because her death was not listed as a homicide, Gmail wouldn't give them to them. It has to be like a homicide. If it's a suicide or I don't know, they won't release them. So they couldn't get those. Aunt had lost the SIM card to Phoebe's iPhone and had given the phone away to a colleague, so the phone couldn't even be analyzed.
Sounds about right.
The DVR that the CCTV had been on, because they had collected it, even though it had mostly been recorded over, but the DVR was lost.
Okay.
Yeah. And because there was just so much that hadn't been analyzed or collected the night of her death, her family expected the coroner to rule it like an open finding, meaning that they couldn't conclusively rule out suicide or an accident or homicide, but it made it possible to investigate it further if new evidence came to light. And the coroner's counsel also recommended an open finding. However, the coroner ruled Phoebe's death an accident. And his explanation for this whole thing was that Phoebe cut herself on the broken glass that was found in the apartment. She was cleaning it up and putting it in a bag, and she took the bag to the garbage room, and in a delusional state, not meaning to hurt herself, she climbed into the chute. She slowed her fall with her arms in her butt, so that's where the bruises came from. But there's a couple of problems with his analysis. Like,
well,
one,
also,
it's like,
how delusional do you have to be to put yourself in the trash instead of...
well, and it's like, it just is, it sounds like speculation.
Yeah.
Like, so the trash bags in the compactor room were not taken for analysis, so there's no evidence that Phoebe took a bag of glass to the refuse room. Plus, there was still glass on the floor.
Right.
There was blood smeared in the apartment. If she was bleeding, there probably would have been blood on the handle to the garbage chute. Additionally, as we discussed earlier, she wouldn't have fit down the chute with her arms by her side.
Right.
Plus, they would have been filthy, and they weren't. And so, like, none of it seemed to be based on actual evidence. So, additionally, studies have shown that people under the influence of still knocks do bizarre things.
Right.
But not bizarre like climb into garbage chutes. So, usually, it's like normal everyday activities. Like, people on still knocks have been known to clean and eat and even drive in their sleep, but it's usually like muscle memory activities, things you do all the time. Plus, with her blood alcohol, it just seems unlikely that she would have had the dexterity to do this. Her family wanted to appeal, but the way the law was in Victoria, it was extremely hard to appeal a coroner's finding. They had to find a perverse error in law, and if they lost, they'd be responsible for like hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, which they couldn't risk. And so, thanks to media attention by the Phoebe's Fall podcast, which was created by Richard Baker and Michael Bachelard, that are two reporters for the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, the Victorian government was planning to review the law to make it easier for families to make appeals to a coroner's inquest. So, one last crazy story.
Okay.
So, after Phoebe's death, Aunt moved on and got married, and then he got divorced. And then he started dating a 25-year-old model and dancer named Bailey Snyder. In June 2018, on a Saturday morning around 8:30, she was living with her parents, and she had spoken to them, and one source had said that she had told them that she had broken up with Aunt the night before. And her family was leaving for errands or something, and she was on the phone, and it sounded like she was maybe arguing with Aunt, because she sounded upset, and she was arguing. When they returned home, they found Bailey on the kitchen floor with a gold cord tied tightly around her neck.
Oh, man.
The police immediately ruled it a suicide. However, there was no place in the kitchen where she could have hung herself from. The ruling from the coroner in Bailey's case was self-inflicted asphyxiation in the family home. And I'm not saying that Aunt had anything directly to do with this. But he seems to be like the unluckiest guy in the world for two of his girlfriends to have committed suicide. Like, is life with him really that bad?
Right.
So, as far as Phoebe's death, aside from suicide or accidental death, many people find so many pieces of her case suspicious. So, with a death so bizarre, why did the police not investigate it as a homicide to begin with and then rule that out? She had an abrasion on her jaw and on one side of her face, and then a bruise on her brain on the other side of her head, like maybe she had been hit and then knocked against like a wall. And additionally, she had those grip mark bruises on her arms. And so, you know, is it possible that when the fire alarm went off earlier in the day, it messed up the key swipe system and someone was able to get into the building and, like, attacked her? Mm-hmm. Could she have had some kind of quick altercation as she was getting ready to go out with her dad that resulted in her getting knocked out? And maybe somebody panicked and put her into the garbage chute and then called someone who was maybe well connected to tell them, hey, I did something stupid. And that person told them, go wipe the prints off of the hatch and act normal until the police arrived. And the police treated it like, and then instructed the police to treat it like a suicide. Or was this really just a tragic accident?
I guess we'll never know.
I don't think we'll ever know. So, anyway, there we go. I think it's the longest one, but not by a lot. Just by a couple of minutes.
Just by maybe 10 minutes.
Yep. Anyway, so there's another sad story for you.
It's another sad story. But, yeah. Like I said, I think that I have heard that one. The part about the trash chute and her not dying before she got to the bottom and stuff like that all sounded familiar. But,
it's just one of those that, like, has bothered me ever since I listened to it, because I was like, how in the world was this just botched so badly?
Yeah.
Like, why did it seem like the police just did not care about what happened
like,
to her?
It was a really bizarre scenario, and so you would think that they would have done some investigating just
and
because.
With the broken glass and the, you know, all of the things, like, why would she have, like, left her hair straightener on the floor, and why would, you know, I'm sorry, I'm very fidgety today. Like, why would she, I don't know, I guess, like, they tried to say, well, she was delusional, and so, like, she didn't mean to, like, go in there with the idea that she was going to climb into the trash chute. I guess just a whim came over her.
But like I said, how delusional do you have to be to just, you know, even if she was intentionally going in there to throw away trash, to then put yourself in the trash chute. Yeah.
Well, like, and the coroner said, well, you know, with her penchant for climbing. And I was like, did she have a penchant for climbing? Like,
when did anybody mention that?
I'm like, when did you hear about this? Like,
but I still don't know that equates to putting yourself in the trash chute.
Yeah, it's just so much.
She needed to climb really bad all of a sudden, and
I know, it's just incredibly bizarre, and it's just so frustrating, and I'm sure, like, for her family, it's even more frustrating, because they're like, how could you, like, why do you think this? And, like, why didn't you do more? And
well, it's definitely bizarre and mysterious, and so I feel like there definitely should have been more done, more looked into, because
yep,
it's not a typical suicide.
No. And then before her mom, like, reached out to, like, the Phoebe's Fall, like, producer guys, this wasn't even on the radar of the news. Like, I think that there, like, initially had been, like, you know, police are investigating the death of a woman in the Valencia apartments. But other than that, it was like, it wasn't, like, in the news. It wasn't like, oh, wow, this girl, like, fell down the garbage chute and this is so weird. And, you know, and so until they brought it to light, like, nobody even really knew it happened.
Yeah. The girl I was talking about, her name was Phoebe Bishop. And she's been missing since May 15th. They found remains in the Goodnight Scrub National Park, which they assume are hers. And they've charged the roommates with her murder.
Yeah.
But,
it's sad.
They said that they were taking her to the airport because she was supposed to go see her boyfriend. And this is common knowledge. She was supposed to go see her boyfriend. So she was going to go to the airport and fly to Perth to see him. And they say that she was anxious or something. I don't remember what they said. but that she was anxious or upset or something. And so they had pulled over half a mile before they got to the airport to let her calm down.
Okay.
And they all got out of the car. Mm-hmm. And they turned around and she was just gone.
Oh.
They assumed that she just walked to the airport. But I'm just like,
wouldn't you have
been able to see her down the road?
Right.
She didn't, like, sprint like some kind of superhero.
Yeah. Well, like Maura Murray, like, she was there and then she was gone. But, I mean, there were woods and, you know, so.
But, yeah, so, they claimed that she just sort of vanished.
Okay.
But, and so they just left. Assuming that she walked to the airport.
Seems like they could have come up with a better story.
Right. So, yeah, they've been charged with her murder.
Yeah.
Again, she was 17, living with two 30-somethings. I don't know why she was living with these two 30-somethings, but...
Yep.
And apparently their house was, like, a disgusting, like, hoarder house.
Yeah.
Full of, like, dead animals.
Ew.
And...
Those were my least favorite episodes of Hoarders.
Yeah, I always had a hard time watching the dead animal episodes. But yeah, apparently their house was like full of dead animals and...
Dang it.
Yeah. So I don't know how she was living there to begin with. There's nothing that would make me live like that.
No.
I'd be like, Mom, I'm moving back in with you.
Right. I don't know. Maybe some more details about that will come to light as it goes on, but...
I've just heard snippets of it so far, so...
Yep. Alright, well, I guess we should say goodbye.
I guess.
Alright, our social media is Twisted and Mysterious. Our email is twistedandmysteriousPodcast@gmail.com. And...
send us your listener stories and any ideas for things you'd like to hear us cover. Also, you know, rate and review our podcast.
Yes, please.
And share it with your friends.
Yes, please.
We need some more interaction and some more spread. And we finally got to South Africa, but not South America. So,
yeah,
we're still trying to hit that sweet spot there in South America.
I know Amy was like, "Ooh, Elon Musk is listening to your podcast," and I was all gross.
He's our one South African listener.
Yeah,
but anyway, so, you know, help us out if you can, especially if you're somebody who is returning to our podcast week after week. We would really appreciate it if you shared our podcast and rated and reviewed it so we can get more exposure. Yep.
And thank you for coming back and listening every week. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate it, and, you know, we're shocked and awed by it because... we never even expected to make it past episode 1. Yep. So,
all right.
We definitely appreciate all of you who do listen to us weekly. Yep. Especially whoever is in Singapore downloading every single one of our episodes.
Yeah, shout out to Singapore, man.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, whoever you are in Singapore, let us know.
Yeah, let us know because you are a rock star. Yep. All right. So I guess that's all we really have for this week.
And I don't know. Maybe Farron will tell us a story next week.
I might tell you a story next week. It depends on whether or not I get my research done in time. Anyway, so as always, remember that people are gross and don't get murdered and don't climb in any trash chutes.
No, there should be a warning sign saying do not climb in here.
There probably are.
Yeah, probably. Okay, bye.
Bye.